This is your home. Hello, Cecily.
Hi, how
Cecily.
are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
You look great.
Thank you. So do you.
Thank you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. And where are you located?
I'm based out of Yonkers, New York, but I'm in the South, so I'm hurricane free right now.
Hurricane free. Okay, there you go. I'm so excited for your talk and for your
Thank
imagery.
you.
So, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay. Heather Lee, let's get it.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Cecile Hill, and I am an architect turned urban planner. So I'll be talking about democratizing, demystifying, and decentering data. And kind of as I mentioned, as an urban planner, I've got a really close relationship with data, and across my work, I'm constantly referencing census data to create maps or convincing narratives to really make a case for action across a lot of different communities. So that's what I'll be speaking to today.
Okay, you got about 15 seconds before it switches to the next slide.
Cool. So yeah, I think a lot of times I feel like a data bot, because you're working in GIS, you're expected to just produce. However, I think a lot of times we're losing the qualitative aspect of it. And at the end of the day, my relationship with data has its ups and downs, just like any other relationship I've got. But lately, a lot of things about data have not been working for me that I'm working to challenge and will speaking to throughout this talk. And I think data has a big number problem. And what I mean by that is too often I feel like my responsibility to create substantive and equitable change revolves around Western forms of legitimization. And that's often embodied in producing and using empirical data. And I feel like the census is a really good example of why data as it exists alone is just not enough. And people's lives and generational experiences and community knowledge simply just can't be reduced to numbers. And we do that too often. And each decade census is responsible for a heap of local funding and financing options, policy decisions, and even though numbers can be convincing, they're not enough to create real change on their own. And here's another thing. The 2020 census was estimated by the US government to cost $15.6 billion to reach 360 million plus Americans, not accounting for undocumented populations. And understanding this, I felt like this just simply couldn't be enough. And 15 billion is a ton of money, don't get me wrong, but as a New Yorker, I pulled some stats that are close to home. And I feel like when the NYPD annual operating budget is 11 billion and 16 billion is what is accounted for to make decisions for 360 billion Americans, it's not enough. And to summarize some of the many reasons why this just doesn't tell the full story, I feel like we're also dealing with issues of undercounting, underrepresentation, and understating the issue and assets of a community, which often disproportionately impacts Brown communities. And subsequently, we need new systems to tackle old problems. And my approach is sometimes new seeming, but it's actually old in practice. And I feel like to dismantle Western systems of thinking, we should try to embody traditional knowledge sharing practices in our work using old systems to tackle big problems. And this relates to dismantling of the worship of the written word. And over time, we were kind of indoctrinated to believe that it has to be written, stamped, and approved to be valid. This entirely negates the lived experiences of people in different places. And that brings me to my 3Ds of data: democratization, demystification, and decentering data as we know it today. I think democratizing data can look like recognition at a number of different levels. So first, understanding that the status quo may not be the way to go. Some folks are tired of answering questions. There's barriers to access, and others just generally don't feel like they're being accounted for at the end of this data. We need to dismantle normalcy that allows us to be more empathetic and receptive of the needs of those we serve. We need to demystify data and junk the jargon. There's times when folks just want to see and hear us be us and talk like we talk all the time. We bring our own differences and backgrounds and experiences that need to come across. And we also need to decenter data in some ways. We need to prioritize the lived experiences of folks and recognize that the end goal doesn't always need to be a pretty map or a nice paper full of convincing numbers. Sometimes oral histories, facts, foods, faces are enough to make a plan for action. And I think there's one caveat that this is not a pick and choose scenario. You can't work to decenter data without democratizing data or vice versa. I think this needs to be a holistic process that incorporates all of these disparate issues. And to bring this kind of into a practical application, I wanted to highlight a project that I worked on in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in an artisanal village that's struggling to compete with the industrialization that's happening in the country with forces from outside countries. And recognizing that there was no way for my group to propose a solution for a landscape that we met and propose it over 4 months, our team really needed to first listen and then read and consult with local partners to understand their ideas first. And we went to the source without needing data to back that up. We then developed an iterative process of ongoing research, demonstrating a willingness to keep learning from the community members, not only resulting in a more equitable process, but one that they could ultimately change and implement as they saw fit. And our qualitative observations transitioned into a series of design principles that then related to the areas identity, housing, market conditions, employment, safety, mobility, governance, and then a series of other categories. And we just wanted to feel like the multitude of narratives that we captured here couldn't be summarized in a few numbers. We strove to create vibrant and empathetic visualizations as well that operated off of stories and energies rather than facts and figures. And our plan for action ultimately turned into a toolkit that we could hand over to community members that they can change as necessary and apply as they want. And in summary, even though my own practices, I'm still learning to decenter and demystify and democratize data, I'm working to work off of an approach that's supported by stories first and numbers second. And I think that we can use this to create more equitable strategies across the world. And thank you for listening to my talk. And I hope that you'll see my face again and you can connect with me across these different channels.
Stories first. Yes.
Hopefully that's the goal.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why it makes sense to have all of these beautiful Black designers sharing their experience.
Yep.
Because I can tell you all day that there's only 3% of us who are Black, but it doesn't mean that you know their story. And so that's what we're doing today. We're bringing the story to the forefront. Do what you want with it. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
You.
Can we please connect? Can we talk on Instagram Live?
Yeah, definitely. I'll hit you up.
Okay, cool. Because I want to learn that personally, how to relate to the story and to the people that we're affecting, that we're designing for.
Yeah, I'm down to chat and exchange ideas and knowledge.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again.